Was growing up and through your experience today of the stereotype of ignorance in especially rural South, and it can lead to hate, race hate, LGBT hate, other kinds of hate. Do you see that that's commonplace, that ignorance leads to hateful situations, and that we don't want to get better? Has that been your experience?
I mean, I don't know if I want to say like no, none of us want to get any better, because the other thing I think that's worth pointing out is like the difference between the Salina that my dad, or especially my grandpa, grew up in compared to the one I grew up in is pretty stark, and in a way that's better. You know what I mean? So like even in places like that, there's been a lot of objective progress over the years. But yes, I think the main thing with all that is that these people don't ever really meet anybody else or experiencing anything else other than, you know, what they're used to or what their lifestyle is like. And I feel like, you know, that's the number one thing that keeps people in that kind of regressive, ignorant space. You know, like ever since 9/11, you know, Muslims, they don't trust them, they're scared of them, whatever. And I bet 95% of them have literally never met an actual Muslim person.
No, that's fascinating to me. I moved to Fort Lauderdale to do this show 4 years ago. Broward County has almost 2 million residents, and one of the first phrases that I learned when I came here is Broward County is a majority-minority county, meaning black, LGBT, women, religious diversity, etc. When you have diversity, you're challenged to be better in your understanding.
Exactly, and a lot of, again, my town at least had a black community in it, but a lot of towns like mine don't even have that. So there's literally no diversity at all. And yeah, I mean, I think that's the probably number one contributing factor.
I also want to talk about the progression of your progressive social beliefs as it relates to LGBT acceptance. You've been quite a tremendous voice, especially when you hear your accent and where you're from. It's highly unusual. And you talk about the influence that your gay uncle had on you. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I was raised mostly by my dad. My parents got divorced when I was 7, and I've lived with my dad pretty much the whole time after that. My dad was a single father, and he had one sibling, his younger brother, my Uncle Tim. And Uncle Tim was just always around. I mean, as long as I can remember, he was always around, not holidays, but also every Sunday for Titans games or whatever. Uncle Tim was just always there. He had this deli on the square in town, and he had all that and made all these visits with his, you know, he couldn't be married back then, his partner, Mike, Uncle Mike, right? And when I was a little kid, I never thought about what that was. And then, like I said, about 9 or 10, my dad explained to me, well, they're gay, they're in a relationship together. And immediately I was just like, okay, well, all right, that's fine. I don't care. He's still Uncle Tim and Uncle Mike, you know. And then again, as I got older living there, I realized that was a problem for a lot of people. You know what I mean? Or that was not accepted and that type of thing. And I was just always very like defiant.
They were ostracized about in your town?
Well, I mean, honestly, no, not really. It's not that they were ostracized. It was just one of those things where like no one acknowledged the truth of the situation. They never, it was not that they pretended. It's like everyone knew it, but no one talked about it.
Right.
And so they'd be nice to them at their face, or they'd eat at their deli or whatever. But then if you ask that person, what do you think about homosexuality? They would say, it's an abomination, it's a sin, they're all burning in hell or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, that was sort of how the dichotomy worked in my hometown.
And in that instance, so your uncle and his partner are relatively embraced in your small rural town.
Yes.
Why isn't the pure exposure to them enough to start to help change other people's minds?
I mean, I guess maybe on the one hand, it at least helped a little bit because, like I said, people were not overtly antagonistic toward them and whatever. And maybe in some of these other towns they would have been. I don't know. So maybe it's at least a little bit better. But I think it was just it's just so deeply ingrained. I mean, I know I'm performing at a church tonight, a queer church, but I've always really chalked a lot of that up to the church and indoctrination and how the rhetoric always was surrounding homosexuality in churches like where I grew up, in places like it, you know, and it's just a lot. I mean, when it comes straight from God, they think, you know, it's a lot for them to just say no, even though, hey, I liked him, but he's a sinner.
It's a great transition into talking about church. We're going to, I want to ask you about what you represent. You're a redneck and all of that series of jokes and comedian and other like comedians. Frequently very, very funny. What's interesting to me is you kind of have that same branding perspective, but you are so pro LGBT, vigorously talk about it. He did not, and I'm curious because I want to ask you about the seat you represent. Many LGBT will watch this; they'll come to your shows because they get interested in what you say and try to understand why you've been able to accomplish it when others haven't. It comes down to you have so much of what we call white male privilege. I have it in white gay male privilege as being gay, meaning you're straight, you're male, and you're in a cohort that launches much of the culture war attack on LGBT, frankly, like what we're watching from our governor here in Florida and so many more. But you break every one of the results of that white gay privilege. Why don't more people get to the place of where you're at?
I mean, I think it circles back to one of the first things we talked about with like the importance of diversity and exposure. You know what I mean? Like, a lot of people just don't have that. And then some people do. They have a beloved family member come out as gay and they kick them out and disown them or whatever. But I just can't understand the lack of humanity required to do something like that. But apparently some people have it, but I don't. And it's just a thing that I never questioned for a second, because of the nature of my relationship with my uncle and him being gay and all that. It was never anything that I struggled with, so it's hard for me to say.
You have children, how old?
10 and 11, boys, two of them.
Both of them boys. Have you thought about the chance of either one of them identifying as gay?
Yeah, I have thought about it. In fact, it's old. It's on our comedy album that we did, me, Corey, and Drew. But I had a bit about, and obviously this is just a comedy bit. I'm kidding around, but I was talking about how serious college football is in the South, and I'm from Tennessee, and the whole bit is like, I would so much prefer one of my sons be gay than be an Alabama fan.
That's right. Right.
And that was the whole point of it.
Right.
And I thought it was funny, and I already recorded it and put it out. But we did a show at a gay nudist resort.
Right.
Right. Two of them actually. And the first time I did that bit, and some of those guys came up to me afterwards, and they weren't admonishing me. They weren't being, like antagonistic about it, but they came up to me and they were like, they basically said, why would you want one of your sons to be gay? Like, do you realize how, and it like really affected me, because obviously I thought about that before.
This is coming from a gay man.
Yeah, right. Multiple of them, they were like, look, it's not easy. It's not fun, whatever. Fun. And again, I'm aware of that, but at the same time, I am a straight white dude, so I'm not really, like, I think I'm aware of it, but I'm really not. And so, yeah, that sort of reframed the way that I looked at it as far as being so cavalier and irreverent about the whole thing, the way that I was before.
Yeah.
But, I mean, if one of my sons is gay, like, bring it on. Yeah. I mean, that's totally fine with me, more than fine. Like, it wouldn't really impact me at all one way or another.
Yeah. All the best to your family and to you. I'm looking forward to seeing your gig. Welcome to South Florida. We're really happy that you're here. You understand how unusual you are in the LGBTQ community.
I do, yeah.
I can't completely tell that you recognize that.
I know.
We have talked about you since the announcement that Sunshine did the gig booking. It's like bringing a unicorn into the church.
Yeah, I've gotten that a lot, actually. But I'm not the only one. There are more of us. We do exist. Yeah. We might be a minority, an extreme minority, but we're out there. Yeah. It's not just me.
Excellent. Well, you want to follow Trae Crowder, and we're putting up all of the contact information. And what's next for you?
Keeping going on the tour. I've got, if you go to TraeCrowder.com, maybe I'm coming near you, wherever you're at, and you can come check it out, because I got a bunch of dates coming up.
Yeah, I highly recommend that you do that. Trae Crowder, thank you very much for coming to Queer News tonight.
Thank you. I appreciate it.